Leaving a high control religion doesn't usually happen overnight. It builds over years. Small doubts, painful experiences, and injustices that finally add up. For Maya, the breaking point came over something as simple as a cake. But that moment revealed everything wrong with the system. The gossip, the surveillance, and the heavy-handed control. This is the story of the final straw.
So let's talk about the leaving then. What was the last straw that you had before you said, no more Jehovah's Witness, no more Kingdom Hall, I'm out of here?
Okay. This might be a weird last straw, but I went to my family reunion. Okay. I helped my cousin plan a family reunion. Now that was pretty big because growing up, as I said, my mother was very strict. So we did not get to know our cousins, even though they all live right here in the same area with us. So at the family reunion, um, my mother, my sister are there, and then all our other family who are not Jehovah's Witnesses in the least. Someone brought a birthday cake, right? Not because it was someone's birthday, but they were going to use the birthday cake because our family had never had a family reunion and a lot of people didn't know each other, right? So they were going to have this birthday cake and then have everybody talk about when their birthday is, who they are, who they're related to, right? So when it was at a park, and when it came time to have this kind of ceremony, they called all the family together, like under a tent or something. My mother and my sister left because I don't know, I guess they felt like it would be unchristian to sit around with the family. I didn't. I'm like, we're having this family reunion so we can get to know people. So I'm sitting there, everyone's around. One of our cousins is into like Afrocentric spiritualism, right? So he started it off with some kind of like African ritual of like pouring libations and talking about the elders. Now, nobody else in the entire family believes in that, right? But they were
Right.
respectful and we're like, okay, okay, right? And then the next thing they did was the birthday cake. So my cousin was like, Maya, and she put the birthday cake. She's like, help me light these candles. I'm like, okay. So I'm sticking the candles in the cake and she's lighting the candles and my father takes a picture, right? Right. And the picture goes up on his website. And then after that, someone who's related to me, who is a witness, saw this picture that looks like me holding the birthday cake. And he had some pull in his congregation and he sent this picture to the elders. And from there, I just got harassed about this. I was really angry about it. And the elders came to my house to talk about it. And I was so upset because the person who sent the picture was at the party. He failed to tell them this detail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and my husband told the elders before they came, don't come to our house to talk about this nonsense. They showed up anyway. So I told them off, as I was in the habit of doing. And that was the last time. I never went to a meeting after that. That was it for me. I was done.
Oh my goodness. And see, this is your second encounter with the same kind of situation when you met with those six brothers. And then here you are. And when you really look at it and you see what you went through over a cake, I mean, give me a break.
Right.
You
Over
know?
a cake. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So then how long ago was that?
That was in 2019.
Okay.
Yep.
Pre-COVID.
Yep. Right
And
before.
now and so now did they do anything? Did they discipline you in the congregation?
No. See, one thing is that when you've been in the congregation for your whole life, I knew the rules. And not only that, I had read my Bible. Okay. So I knew that the elder who started all this was dead wrong. Right? Because first of all, he was supposed to come and talk to me and get the facts, which he did not do.
Mhm.
Secondly, he had lied to the other brothers and he sent them this picture through the like inter-elder email
Mhm.
as if it was an official, like as if he had talked to his elders and all of them decided to send this picture, but that wasn't true. He just did this on his own. So the brothers came to talk to me. I told them they were wrong. I told them the real story. They didn't have anything else to say. But I did what I had done in the past. I waited for the circuit overseer to come around, even though I wasn't going to the meetings. I said I wanted to talk to the circuit overseer. So I had to wait like 3 months. The circuit overseer called me And the circuit overseer tried to start out by reading me a scripture about forgiveness. I said, I'm going to stop you right there. It's my decision as to when I want to forgive this person. Okay. Your business is only to either take care of this problem about an elder who lied or don't, but don't waste my time. So the circuit overseer got off the phone, and the next call that I got was from that elder with an apology. We're not going to
Good
say,
for you. Yeah, yeah. See
yeah,
there? See?
yeah,
They play too many games. See,
right,
sometimes they don't know who they're messing with, you know?
right.
And
Like
that
you
shouldn't
just
even have been an issue anyway, just somebody, just a cake and all that. And it's not, and that's not even scriptural.
no, none of it was. And that's the thing. I think a lot of witnesses don't know the rules. If you know the rules, you know, then sometimes these elders are completely acting out of pocket. You don't have to find yourself in a horrible situation.
That's right. Was your husband at the event that you were at?
Yes,
Okay, yeah. So he
mhm,
probably saw the hypocrisy behind all that as well.
of
So
course.
then you stopped going to the meetings because of another issue that happened in your life around surrounding this fake birthday cake. At this time, do you realize that this is not the truth?
Yes, because the part that I didn't tell in the story is that when I turned 30, which was some years before 2019, 10 years early, 10 years earlier, after I'd had my first child, I said to myself, I've had all these doubts. Let me go and really do some research and find out if this doctrine is true or not. And it probably took me, I don't know, maybe 6 months. I was doing all kinds of research, but I wasn't just researching the society's publications because now I'd been to college. So I knew that you can't take all your information from one source, right? So I went to the library. I was Googling things. I was, downloading information. I was reading other concordances. It was a lot. Okay. I read the Bible cover to cover. I was underlining things. I came out with that it was fake, that there's a lot that's just made up in the doctrine. And especially the 1914 doctrine really is the key doctrine. If 1914 is not true, then the governing body doesn't have any authority that they say they have, and that doctrine is blown out of the water very easily. And from there, if you allow yourself to go there and understand that, then you just jump into a rabbit hole, of facts that prove that this religion is just not all that it says that it is. It doesn't take much to unravel it. You just have to allow yourself. So that happened when I was 30, so here I was in the congregation. I didn't do field service for a year, like 10 years at all. All my hours were fake. Sorry, y'all. They was all fake. Okay. So I
Well,
was already
so
on.
much for the years, so much for the yearbook statistics.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Any magazine I placed, I did not. Yeah. I was already gone. So 2019, that was just really just the end.
So then your 2019 was just you were no longer PMO.
Yeah.
And so what was it like after you left? And because even though it's not the truth and you are PMO, there's something about, walking across the threshold of the Kingdom Hall that just didn't sit right with me with all those mean people.
Yeah.
So when you finally physically left, what was the healing like? How did you begin to heal?
Well, it's a grief process, really. I feel like at first I had, again, a lot of anxiety. I remember I wanted to try new things, but then when I would try something new, I would be worried. Like I wanted to buy lottery tickets, at the supermarket. And like I would go over to buy the lottery ticket and I'm like, oh my God, what if elders jump out from behind me? It was like that, And then I remember going shopping for clothes, and for about 1 year, whenever I would pass by dresses, in the store that looked conservative looking, I would like kind of shake because I would remember, the conventions and assemblies and things. So there was that piece that had to kind of wear off. And then there was the stigma, running into people from the congregation and some of them like refusing to speak,
Mhm.
you know, all these people that you see every week, but no one cares that you've disappeared for 2 years. They don't ever care to even ask you how you're doing or what happened, nothing, you know? Not one elder's ever called me, nothing. Yeah, and that was painful, and then, of course, dealing with my family was really, really difficult because they're not accepting at all, you know? I don't really have much of a relationship with my mother or my sister, because I don't toe the line.
Oh, so even though you're not disciplined in the congregation, they're shunning you?
Right. I think people now call it soft shunning, you know?
Mhm.
You're just not invited to the family barbecue, anymore.
What about your dad?
Yeah, I can see my dad, but, my dad he's kind of sucked into my mom's world as he always has been, so I don't see him that much, because
Yeah.
of that. Yeah, which has been really painful because I think it feels very unfair.
Yeah. I mean, so now because remember we talked about you, um, like establishing friendships in college and
Mhm.
that didn't happen. So how are you now, finding people to associate with after leaving?
Well, I went back to therapy again after leaving, found a really great therapist, and started to really work on becoming myself. And I think this happens to a lot of us as witnesses. You live a life, some people call it a double life, right? Or you're really repressed and you don't know how to be a person, your own person. That's how I felt, you know? And so I had to start to connect with new people. I joined some organizations. I joined a sorority and I joined a mom's group that's been really great where I've begun to make friends. Then, as I began working as a social worker, I met a lot of people who are similar to me. And I've got some really good friends that I've been friends with now for about 10 years through work. It was just a very slow process, but I got to say, I was very lonely for
Mhm.
probably the first 4 or 5 years. It felt very lonely because, meeting friends as an adult is hard and it just takes time, but it's worth the wait. I feel so much better because the people in my life now are here to stay, or at least they're not gonna kick me out of their life or the group just because I don't live by the rules they live by, you know?
Mhm.
And that is
Absolutely.
huge.
Yeah. And I think we all have gone through that and we have, found, friendships in different places. And I think the biggest place for me to get friends was at work.
Mhm,
And I do keep in touch with some people that I went to school with, but not much. But I reached back to friends that I used to work with at previous jobs as well. And you're not going to click with everybody because everybody's different. I don't care if you're a Jehovah's Witness or not.
mhm.
But, I'm starting to learn even now that, everybody is not a friend that shows up on your doorstep, you know? So you
Right.
still gotta be selective even though you, are not a Jehovah's Witness and you don't judge people and you don't look at people, what they're doing in their life based on some belief system, but you still have to be careful who you invite into your put your into your, space. It's one of those kinda things, you know? But it's Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna agree with you because I think one of the things I had to learn really fast was that, just because you meet another ex-Jehovah's Witness does not mean that you're going to be friends or that your lives are gonna be in any way similar. Because what I worked through in therapy was that I didn't realize that at the Kingdom Hall, we have Insta friends, right? Show up, a little water, mix, Insta friends. Everybody's your brother, your sister, hug, hug, kiss, kiss. They're not really real relationships most of the time, but then you leave the Kingdom Hall and you really think I'm gonna walk into work and like it's gonna be insta friend. It's not like that in real life. Yeah.
I love it. I love that. I love the fact that you said Insta friends. Are you gonna close that gap? You know where I'm going with this?
Uh-uh.
So you're at the Kingdom Hall as Jehovah's Witnesses and you're an Insta friend.
Oh yeah.
You leave the religion, you go into the X community, into the ex Jehovah's Witness community, and you're Insta friends. It's the same thing in reverse.
Right.
But because you're dealing with the same mindset sometimes,
Right.
you're getting the same thing because just because you left the religion doesn't mean that you left the mindset that you learned in that group. So if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you're jealous and you have jealous tendencies and you don't like people because they did something, when you leave, that doesn't mean you're going to change having a jealous tendency. You're going to be the same person that you were over here that you were over there. So,
Right.
and this is where I'm getting at when I'm talking about that friendship and when you're talking about the Insta friends. And that's why, when you leave the religion, you still have to be on guard as to what you're dealing with, because people are unraveling a lot of different things and you got a lot of triggers going on. So as a therapist, you want to kind of talk about what a trigger does to someone that was in a cult, high control group.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a high control group, witnesses, we'll call it a cult, we'll call it a high control group. It's all the same thing. You're under coercive control when you're in a group where there's a leadership that is telling you how to act every day. They tell you how to dress. They tell you what you can eat sometimes. They tell you how you can have sex or can't have sex. They're controlling every bit of your life. They tell you who your friends can be. They tell you who your friends can't be. You end up with a childlike personality, right? It makes it very difficult to even know how to make choices on your own because the group tells you what to do all the time. So coming out of that, the world can seem very overwhelming.
Mhm.
Because here you are with all these choices now. Now, what do I do? Right? How do I be? How do I know even who I am? I've been in this group so many years. They've told me who I have to be, but who am I really? It can be very upsetting, I think, and really hard for people, especially if they've been in the religion for their entire life, since childhood. It can be really hard. And not only that, sometimes I was very fortunate to have a father who's not a witness, and a mother who is not attached to a family of witnesses. But for people whose entire family is Jehovah's Witnesses, like you're not just leaving a religion, you are leaving sometimes your entire family. The grief process may be intense, and people just have to understand that you might need to take some time to really take care of yourself. I know I imagine like, oh, the day that I don't go to the meetings anymore, it's just going to be I'm home free, or every day is going to be a good day. That is not quite how it is.
Right. So what's it been like that now that you've left? How are your kids? How old are your children now?
I've got one child who's 17, almost 18, and one who's 12.
Okay.
It
How
has
do
been
how do
hard.
they feel? How do your children feel about not having to go to Kingdom Hall?
We had to have talks with both of them because especially my oldest son, he was in the Kingdom Hall until he was about 12, you know. So he had friends from the Kingdom Hall and he had really grown up not from us because we didn't push the society's doctrines at home, but they hear it at the Kingdom Hall, you know. So he really had to deal with this idea that it's okay to have friends that are not Jehovah's Witnesses. And probably when he turned about maybe like 15, he told me that he was a little upset that we had let them stay in the religion that long, because it was now hard for him. He had to make all new friends. He was in junior high school, and he felt like he really missed out. And all I could do was apologize because it was true, because all his little witness friends, shunned him. So now he had to really focus on meeting people at school, and those children at school, they've already been hanging out with each other for, 5, 6, 7 years. Now he's coming in there late. And he expressed that he really felt that, but on the other hand, he was so glad that he doesn't have to worry about the doctrines anymore. He doesn't worry about Armageddon anymore. He doesn't like to talk much about having been a witness because he said it's too depressing. So I'm just glad for both of my kids. They get to live a real life. They get to
I'm
do it.
glad you I'm glad you said that about your child and how he felt, because that's the component that adults don't think about in this religion. Like
Right.
when you said that your mother wasn't raised as a witness, but she came in and then she put you in that, and she never knew what it was like going to school as a Jehovah's Witness kid. And then here your child, even you're not even thinking about what their day is like and how they're being mistreated. I was that little kid that was treated bad because of my religion, so I know what that looks like.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying, I'm glad you shared that part, because they're suffering just as much as we are. So it doesn't make a difference how old you are when you realize this is not the truth. You've been affected by it, you know?
that's right.
Yeah.
My youngest son, he must have been maybe like, I don't know, maybe 8. And he got invited to a birthday party. I said, "Okay, you can go." So I took him over to the birthday party, and we walked in. Everybody was calling his name because he's very popular. Okay. And then he turned around to me and he gave me a hug, and he's not a huggy person. And he said, "See, mom, it's okay. It's just a party. Everything's okay." Because even he had recognized that everything was supposed to be so bad and scary before, you know, but they get to live their life.
Oh, wow, that's nice. I'm glad your kids got out and their understanding, and what he said to you was really nice and made you feel, I bet you that warmed your heart too. It's just a party, mom. But
Yeah.
because we're all, as humans, we just want to be accepted. We just want to go out, be, and I think when you're going to school as children, that is the hardest part in life, because you're being sent to school, you're being sent into this, as we would say, lion's den. I don't care if you're a Jehovah's Witness or not. I feel
Mhm.
like school was a lion's den for all children, because that's the place where you're either going to, have self-esteem or not. Because if the kids like you, then you're good. If they don't, you could be a person that's not part of a religion, and you could still find that problem of not being accepted. So that, so now you're going to add the Jehovah's Witness or some other religious component to that, which makes it even worse. So, I mean, that's just an important component in life. And I feel like we should let our kids be generic. We should never make our children be our religion until they get to be their age to find out whether or not this is what they want in their life. Let them be who they are in school. Let them have relationships. Let them, have the friends and all that kind of stuff. But you still got to be, selective as to who you hang out with. Of course, you ain't trying to hang out with. When I was coming along, they called them the burnouts. Those are the people that smoked reefer. They called them the burnouts. So you might not want your kids hanging out with the burnouts, but at the same time, it's like, hey, look, we're still going to find some people that live a decent and respectable life. But
Right.
it's just so important for the kids.
I know.
But
I grew up feeling like I never had any hope. That feeling, I never lost that feeling. First of all, they kept telling us that we were never going to make it to high school. So it's like growing up with this idea that life is somehow not even worth living. Like there's no hope for the future. You're never going to go to college. You're never going to get married. The new system's going to be here by then. Armageddon's coming. And so then I went to school with still the idea in my head that Armageddon is coming, right? And not really living a life. And then also having talents and skills and abilities that witnesses look down on. I really like to sing, and I used to sing opera, but
really,
people would say, "Oh, well, you can't get too involved in that. You're going to be hanging around with worldly people." Everything is very limited. You know, I don't want that for my kids.
that they really run a number on us with that, because I'm older than you are. I heard the same thing. I knew I couldn't even think about going on a campus. And when I was coming along, they didn't have online schools. That didn't happen. You didn't have those choices.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that this religion, with this thing, with the new um, mandate about the college being a conscious matter,
Mhm.
a lot of people, I mean, there's so many extra Jehovah's Witness videos now about the education and
Yeah.
how people felt and how their lives would be different, how they would be able to retire by now and didn't have to work so hard and all that kind of stuff. That made a huge difference in people's lives, whether they could go to school or not.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows that when you can get that education, you're
Right.
going to make more money. They already say that college graduates, they make so many hundreds of thousands of dollars more than a high school graduate and stuff like that. But it's not too late. people can still go in and do college and stuff, but now the world has gone crazy. So I don't know what's going to happen. Everything has gone to hell in a handbasket now. But I don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months, 6 to 18 months. I don't know where we're going to be in society. You know, we might all be running for the hills pretty soon. Who knows? But at the same time, I still tell people just keep looking for opportunities because, you know, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep going. And you got to realize that if you keep going, then there's going to be doors that's going to open.
Right.
And I've learned that so many times that if you give up and you don't keep going, then you're going to be mad because you gave up. Because that's what we did when we were Jehovah's Witnesses. We gave up. So no matter what goes on in the world today, keep moving, keep it going, because people are going to be just fine. Just keep going.
Just keep going. Like, don't get stuck in the mentality that it's the end, you know?
Mhm.
Oh, everything is so crazy in the world. Yes, it is. But guess what? Know your history. The world has
Mhm.
been crazy at many moments in the past, and yet we are still here. Like you
Yeah.
said, just keep going. The
Yep.
world's always going to be crazy.
Absolutely. Now, is there any other further comments that you would like to make? Like, what message would you leave to my audience in closing? Anything that you want to say special about your experience or what people can do for future?
You know, I think what I really wanted to say is that um, when you're leaving, you know, as a and you know, and then there's people who are PMO who are, you know, watching these videos, like really take notice of how you feel. I feel like in the Watchtower, and I was looking at some old Watchtowers the other day, you know, preparing to talk with you, and emotions were kind of demonized. You know, it's as if, oh, if you have depression, oh, there's something wrong with you. Oh, you have a chemical imbalance. Oh, you don't love Jehovah enough, right? But the reality is that if you're having really negative emotions, if you're feeling very depressed every day, if you're feeling anxious every day, you know, if you're waking up and it's hard for you to get through the day, or you just feel like sitting home and not dealing with people, and this is going on for months, this is your body's warning system to you. Like, there are no bad emotions. Our emotions are trying to tell us something. I wish that I had known that many years ago when I was pioneering and I had my breakdown, that I had been feeling worn down and sad and afraid for some years. And I just thought it's just me. No, the emotions are trying to tell you that there's something in my life that needs to change, and start to really look at your life and what makes you happy and what doesn't, you know? And then for people who are already out of the organization, leaving is hard. It's a grieving process. It can take some years to start to feel better. I think talk therapy has been great for me. You know, there's also medication that's helpful to people. But no matter what, find some way to take care of your mental health. There's a lot of stigma against mental health care that we grew up with, that's taught in the Watchtower. You know, I was just reading an article from the 80s where it was talking about, well, talk therapy doesn't really help, medication doesn't really help, but Jehovah helps. You know, it's this stigma that, you know, Jehovah's nice and everything, but sometimes we really need the support of a human being that we can see, that's right here, that can help us to get up and move on with our life. And I would just encourage people to be open to it if it's an idea that's, you know, not familiar to you. It can really change your life. It really saved my life.
That's good information. And people really need to hear that. And, you know, how can people reach you if they need to speak to a therapist?
They can take a look at my website because there's a link there where you can contact me. So it's a repose counseling, the number 4, the letter u.com, reposecounselingforyou.com.
Okay. And the link to that website is in the description of this video, as well as I've put a picture right up here so that you can see what it looks like.
Thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed talking with you.
I certainly enjoyed talking to you as well. This has been wonderful. I mean, being able to talk to someone that had similar experiences and growing up in this religion and being fearful of the 666 and the dragon and the harlot riding the dragon and all that kind of stuff. And I hope that everyone in my audience really got something out of this discussion as well, because you may not be, in talk therapy, but sometimes just watching an exchange of conversation like we're having can be helpful as well. So I want to thank you so much, Maya, for being on the program.
Thank you for tuning in to this 3-part episode of Maya's story. If you missed parts 1 and 2, you can find the links to those episodes in the description. If you have a familiar experience to share, we invite you to leave your comment below. Thanks for being in our audience. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next episode.